Okay, so in this video I want to go over this interchangeable head system that I'm kind of working on and see what you guys think. You know, it seems like a really beneficial way to tie these game changer style flies so that you can test different heads, swap heads on the water in different situations, you know, things of that nature. And this is what I came up with. So I started with a couple different attempts at prying open and leaving open the eyelet on this last 15mm shank here, and then leaving an open loop, try and get that at an angle, leaving an open loop in back with my articulation wire that I could pop in and out, and I could pry open and close that last eyelet when I wanted to change heads. And that does actually kind of work. I don't know how many times you would be able to do that before you broke the eyelet. You know, and then you have to have pliers and stuff on the water, which most of us are going to carry that stuff, but you end up, I'm assuming, eventually breaking that eye off, and then you've wasted the whole back end of your fly. You know, and if that's going to happen, then, you know, just tie up a whole fly. But it would be a good way to test a few times and then cinch it up for good. You know, so I was kind of playing with that, and then I posted on Instagram the idea, and someone sent me, grab a package of them here, someone pointed me in the direction of these. This is a Mustad snap hook. They are for fly fishing. They're kind of like a swivel, the quick change flies. I had never seen them before, and these things are super cool. I'm tying all my streamer leaders ending with these now, just so I can switch flies really fast without wasting a bunch of tippet. So I ordered some, obviously, and here they are, and this is what I want to display here or show you guys how this works. So a lot of people are tying game changers with, they're attaching the last shank or the shanks to the hooks using another shank, so another, you know, 15 or 20mm shank, and wrapping that on real tight, super glue. And you know, that's a good quick way to make these joint connections. So it's kind of the same idea as that, only you're going to tie in this, and you have, it's not ideal, a special made product would be better, but you know, you basically tie this onto the back of the hook and you leave the gap open as much as possible, and then you can pop the, so you tie that onto the head, and then, you know, you can basically pop the back ends on and off. So I'll try and do one real quick here, just make sure what end I tied open. So basically I have my feather head here, and I can just grip this and pull it off. And then I have over here a, oh sorry, this one is one of the old styles. So find one here that, okay, so I'll do it on this one. So I can basically pop the drunken disorderly head off of this body, and then I can come over, if let's say I wanted to, you know, I was fishing a deep run or deep pool and I wanted to throw a sculpin head, a weighted sculpin head, I can just pop this on there, and the only tricky part is figuring out which end your open part of the loop is. There we go. You know, so then now you have your sculpin head version, you know, same body, but you can fish a deep pool here and, you know, slow swing a sculpin through that section. And you can see I'm not super practiced at this there. So that pops on and off. And then I have over here just your standard Game Changer head, just a feather head here. And that one could pop on as well, you know, get a little bit more of just your standard Game Changer. So that one I've done a few times, so that one snapped right on. So that's it. Now, I've fished a little bit with this. I don't have a ton of time on the water to see how these are going to hold up. I've got a few different sizes of these I'm playing with. This is the biggest, size 1. There's also size 2 and size 3. So I have, on this feather head, is using the smallest, which is a size 3. And that works pretty well. You can see this back end's been fished and the front end hasn't, so that's these feathers are kind of laying down. So the taper probably doesn't look quite right, but that's just because one side's been wet and the other hasn't. But you can see the taper as much as possible, you know, with this. You don't see any gap there. It looks like a Game Changer you tied with a non-interchangeable head, and you did it right, and no gap anywhere on that body, which is how I like to see them tied. You know, they don't fish any different if there's a gap really, but they look better, you know, to the naked eye, to the fisherman's eye. So this one has the smallest connection point in there, which I'm gonna not be able to show you because my camera is at kind of a funky angle here. But that's the smallest one, so that gives the best and the smallest gap. What I'll have to find out as I fish it more is whether or not that thinner wire and, you know, smaller connection point is going to hold up to bigger fish. You know, most of us are fishing these Game Changers for smallmouth, and it really should be okay for that. But these are technically like a dry fly trout size, and you can see it just right here, right off my fingernail. You know, it's a pretty thin gauged wire. So that one has that. So I'm going to fish that and see how that holds up. But these other heads that are bigger, I've been doing the size 3 because I ordered, or size 1. So I ordered the size 1 and the size 3 to start, the biggest and the smallest. So these I tied using the biggest connection point, the biggest size quick clip. And I don't know if you can see it there very well. But it's significantly bigger right there. Always some fibers in the way. But that being, oh, I don't know, triple the size of loop, you get a little bit more of a gap when you connect it. These heads are so big and have so many long fibers that they still look okay when you connect it, and it's, you know, you get a big full range of motion. It's nice, strong, thicker wire. I have no doubt that those clips would hold up to bigger, more aggressive fish without bending out. The smaller ones, I think, is still remains to be seen. So on these bigger heads, I tie with the bigger clips, the size 1 clips, and that seems to work out well. I did recently, I haven't tied anything with it yet, get some size 2 clips. I'm hoping those are kind of that perfect in between, and I can just use those for every application. So we'll see as I tie more if it works well for the smaller feather heads without creating a gap, but is still strong enough to hold up to the type of fish we're catching with these. So in this video, I know I'm kind of running long here just in this description, but in this video I'm going to tie, because I haven't tied one yet, I'm going to tie the Drunken Disorderly, the D&D deer hair head for the olive Game Changer, so that I'll have a complete set there, the feather head, the sculpin helmet head, and then the D&D head. want a downturned eye because you want a little bit of an angle when you cut the head, which you'll see, and I've got one here. So when you end up tying this and cutting it, this one's pretty straight, but you get a little bit of an angle here, so this kind of scoops the water in it. You know, you kind of get it to swim and dive a little bit as you pull it, you know, as you strip. So these, you're going to fish these with intermediate lines, sing tip lines. So the weight of that line is gonna create a little bit more dip, and then the downward angle of the hook eye is gonna cause this every time you strip to kind of dive a little bit more, and for that to push and swim in the current. So I did bend this one because it is a straight eye hook. It's just the best hook that I have right now to do what I need to do for this fly. You need a little bit of space on the shank to tie these heads, you know, because you want a nice thick collar, and then you know, a few pencils worth in the head to create your swim head. You can tie these on the bent streamer hooks that make that a real aggressive bend, and that will give you a little. That's good for deep water because that will give you an even more aggressive downward angle, and this fly will get deep quickly and still have the swimming action. And you see that in the shad wrap versions of Tommy Lynch's D&D's Drunken Disorderlies. You know, he'll use a bent eye hook and just makes that angle more aggressive, and he uses that, I believe, in deeper sections of river where he's casting at that structure and needs it to get down right away. That steeper angle accomplishes that. So anyways, I've got some GSP tied in. I've got my start about halfway, a little bit less than halfway, or more than halfway, I guess, depending on how you're looking at it. I need at least half this shank for the collar and head. So I'm going to tie in, the whole point of this video, I'm going to tie in the interchangeable quick clip from Mustad. This is the size 2, so the in-between size that I'm hoping is kind of the perfect size for these, perfect combination of strength and but still small enough to not create a huge gap. It's for sure going to work size-wise for this head because we've got a lot of materials off the back of this hook, so we should be fine. So the way I tie this in, it's kind of tricky. You'll have to, you know, figure out the best way, you know, for you to get things to sit right, but we want it to sit straight up and down, you know, so the loop is how you would tie in articulation wire. So I'm tying to the side of the shank a little bit, and I want it straight up and down, and most of all secure. So let's see what we can do. Helps to just get a few wraps behind the eye here, and if you can get it on the side of the shank, that seems to work a little bit better. So get a couple wraps just to kind of secure it, and of course it wants to roll on me, so I'm going to fight with this a little bit. I've only tied a couple of flies with this, so bear with me a little bit. There we go. And what I found here is I'm trying to get the clip part, so the part that comes together, that even with the top of the shank, and because of the angle, these aren't really designed to do this, so I get a little bit of a downward angle with the eye of the clip, and that seems to be kind of the sweet spot where it'll sit flat with the loop up and down and still give me a chance to tie it in. So I'm going to tie that in. The eyelet does help you because it's not going to slide out the way the fish would pull it if you tie it in good, because that eye is gonna catch on the threads, and you're gonna be safe from it totally coming loose. The bigger problem is keeping it from twisting, because you only have an 1/8 of an inch of shank, and that's not ideal for keeping it from spinning on the hook shank. So what I do is I get it tied in as good as I can, right behind the eye of the clip, and then I will actually take my time and get my thread inside the clip so that I can utilize that extra space, that extra shank length, and I get all the way down as far as I can into that clip. And it just takes a little time, but it's worth it in the end because it'll stay where it needs to be. And the only place I'm not building up thread as much as possible is right where the clip comes together, because you don't want to get a ton of materials right in that spot, because you don't want to have to deal with that when you are swapping heads out. And then the other thing is make sure you don't accidentally close it with a thread, which I may. Nope, I'm good. So just make sure each wrap goes into the clip, pull tight, and then I'm going to wrap back out here and wrap in front of it a little bit, and that's actually pretty solid. That feels pretty good. I'm liking this size 2 quick clip for this so far. I could have tied this farther back on the shank, but for the sake of this video, I think we're alright. I don't have a ton. This is going to be in the olive color. I don't have a ton of big feathers in this color. So normally what I would do is I would tie this in, I'd tie in a few wraps of polar chenille to cover the gap, and then I would take a couple of my feathers that I was using in the body, and that would be, I would continue that taper onto this front hook, and then I would do my head. Because I'm low on big feathers, to continue my taper out from this body, I'm gonna wrap my polar chenille, and then I'm gonna go straight into the D&D head, the prop for the D&D head, which is rabbit strip. So I'm gonna grab those materials and get started. Use just your everyday medium zapper. So with this Palmer chenille, we're going to wrap it a couple wraps in front, and then with the bigger head, like the D&D or the sculpin helmet, you don't have to do this, but on the feather heads, what I like to do is start right at the eye and do basically what I did with the thread, which is get down into the actual loop with the Palmer chenille. building a prop for your deer hair collar that you're gonna set in. So the way you do that, and the reason you use a rabbit strip rather than a composite loop or a dubbing bump or something like that is you really want an aggressive prop, something that's really gonna hold that deer hair up. And the rabbit strip, you, rather than wrapping forward on the shank with each wrap, you're gonna get that first wrap in, and then you're gonna pull the hair back, and you're just gonna wrap in the same spot. So you're just building height. You're not coming forward at all on the shank. You're just building a big bump of the hide and getting the added benefit of the fur, you know, to build a collar. But really, it's the bump of hide that is the purpose of this. And then tying it off is the tricky part. I'm not great at it without having the strip slide down, but I'm gonna do my best here. What I find usually works after I kind of wet the fur to get it out of the way is to over rotate this a little bit, and then I'm gonna pull tight because it's still twisting here a little bit. Over rotate it a little bit, and then when I pull this down on there, get my couple wraps, get my fur out of the way, get a couple wraps here, pull it tight, and then pull this kind of back up a little bit, slick everything back. And then get my closing wraps right in front, locking wraps to get that locked in, and then cut this off right at the face of the bump. So now we're ready. Probably get a little bit of super glue in there, but now we are ready to set the deer hair collar and finish this head. So here's the uncut. You can see it's nice and round, evenly distributed. You know, we've got a really good start to the head of this fly. If you're fishing smallmouth in summer conditions, you know, lower water, you know, you might want to do the standard feather game changer. That's tried and true. You're fishing steelhead, stripping for steelhead like they do here in the fall here in Michigan, and the Drunken Disorderly is the #1 fly for that. So you're gonna go between this and maybe the deeper diving Shad Rap edition. You're swinging. You want to swing for some fish in deep holes. You know, get your sculpin helmet weighted fly in there. You know, just tons of different things. So, anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling, and that's gonna end the video for now. I'll clean up this head a little bit, and it'll be ready to fish. But that is what we're going after, hot swap.